progress. It's
the gray one.
You can see it from there. Yeah. One of the problems being now that for me to produce a bronze is very expensive. Because bronze is very, very expensive. That has other pieces, they're not on it yet.
Right.
That would be called Flower Girl. She's missing her little hand piece. She's missing a few other of the pieces. But since I work mostly to satisfy myself now, then I can do anything I want, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm open for commissions. And because I realized other people's dreams, I'm very easy to work with.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's why I lasted so long in the collectible industry.
Now, are you still in that collectible industry?
No, because by 2004, the vast majority of my work went to China. The collectible industry, they produced the pieces in China, but they would pay local sculptors to do the original prototypes. And what happened was that in order to get the contracts for the production of the pieces, the Chinese started throwing in the sculptures of the originals for free. However, for many, many years, they did a terrible job of it. Because adorable is a Western concept. It's not, it's not an Eastern concept. And they were sculpting with an Eastern mind. So they were not in tune to what the program directors were expecting when you did a master to be produced. Right. So their concept, if they told you. If you told them to make, it's kind of funny, but if you told them to make a cowboy a little less hard and masculine and a little more feminine, you might get something with breasts, okay? I mean, for real. Right. I'm serious, okay? Right. I once did a Santa Claus for a Jack in the Box, and it came back looking like, they did it first. I got a lot of redos for about 6 or 7 years. They sent it to China. It came back looking like Moses. And I turned it into a jolly, beautiful Santa Claus. They would call me and go, we've got a redo from China. So I did that for a lot of years as well. And finally, in 2004, I was still getting calls. I had done some pieces for Campbell's, and I've done a lot of licenses for Coca-Cola, John Deere, those type of sculptures, and I just finally decided to do my own thing. Yeah. And just start doing my own work because I'm happy that way. Yeah. Everything I did in the collectible industry was deadline driven. Okay.
You're working late nights and
meeting deadlines. Yeah. Just making deadlines. Consequently, I learned to work under any circumstances with a couple of kids on my hip. Yeah. I don't need a big, fabulous, fancy studio. I had 2, and they were just wonderful. But if they were not in the heart of the home, where I had to be cooking and doing my sculpt and talking to the kids and doing my sculpt with all kinds of noise in the background. Yeah. And tending to them, helping them do their homework and doing my work at the same time, and then sitting up late at night, then it didn't work for me. But I'm happy because I can work anywhere. I love my little cozy space. I've got great light. And this is it. This is where the magic happens.
Doing this kind of stuff. Do you miss it? I mean, do you miss
the collectible industry? Yeah. I did, because I missed the money, and the money was great. The money was awesome. No. I had years when I was doing 6 figures. Of course, I was worked to death. Right. So, but I do miss it. I do have that expedient. I miss the expediency. I do the sculpt, I get the check. I mean, what's not to miss? And now, selling art, I think, and particularly in this climate, you have to make some attitude adjustments and some expectation adjustments. Right. Which I have. Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, I don't even know how to get to that. Now, for another sculpture, beginning sculpture, how do they get to that level where you're at? I mean, I guess, for the collectibles. I mean,
you mean how does an artist grow? Yeah. By continuing to work. I never ever, for once in my life, and I've been working since I'm a tiny little kid.
Yeah.
And I got my first professional design job with a small private mint in 1972. I was in my early 20s. While I was there, I was the only designer for a staff of 7 sculptors. At night I would go home and I'd learn to sculpt. I taught myself.
Okay, just
you
right
learn
down.
and you learn and you learn and you learn and you don't know everything. Every painting I do, every time I pick up a pencil or a brush or a piece of clay, I've learned something.
Right.
You know, it's funny because although I did not complete college, I was awarded an honorarium at the prestigious Moore College of Art in 1986 to come in and teach kids precisely what you're asking me.
Yeah.
How do you do it? And I think one of the problems with people is that they become overly satisfied with what they've produced. You really need to be, if you want technical skills. I mean, there was a lot of tendency towards non-skilled art. I was told by a lot of galleries now that quality's coming back. People want more representational.
Right.
Than more, for lack of a better reference, Jackson Pollock-y kind of, I've expressed myself on this canvas kind of art. They're tending more towards quality. And you need skills for that.
Yeah.
You can't draw a figure in clothing unless you understand what is under that clothing.
Right.
And what is under the skin. And what is under the muscle.
So,
and unless you know, and unless you've learned those skills and can look at something. Now, I'm stylized. I couldn't be stylized when I was sculpting in the collectible industry. I had to do things that looked precisely like what I was commissioned to sculpt.
right.
They don't want you stylized for that. Except when I did really sweet, cute things, then they would say, oh, make it magic, do the dragon, breathe a life into it.
Yeah.
And that's different. But if you were called upon to sculpt a president or a scientist, you'd better be able to look at that piece and look and look and look back and forth from the scrap, which is the packet of photographs they give you,
Right.
to the piece that you're sculpting, and know that you have to pay attention to the little bitty distance between here and here and here and here and here and here. And, you need to be able to look back and forth and figure that out. I could take tremendous liberties with what I do now.
Yeah.
But they don't want you stylized if you're trying to do something that's going to be representational and a right-on image. It could be stylized in your own way, but it's got to really look like that person.
Right.
And there's no getting around what you have to know. There just isn't. There are no shortcuts. Nowadays, there's a lot of trickery, okay? I never learned to do that. I was lucky. I started studying anatomy and watercolors and sketching with a woman in Philadelphia named Miriam Fine when I was 8 years old. I was put into watercolor classes and drawing classes and private lessons, or a class with 6 kids in it.
Yeah.
Of all different ages. And yeah, the principal called my parents in. They thought all kids could draw. And maybe they could, because when I look back now, I do not see anything extraordinary about my very early drawings. Okay?
Yeah.
I just know that I learned, and I learned, and I learned, and I'm still learning.
Okay, once you learn all that, you still gotta learn how to market yourself. And that's
tough.
That's the art.
That is the toughest thing now, although you have the tools of the internet.
Right.
I myself am not very good at it. I was great when it comes, if somebody calls me and says, I want you to do a sculpture, we're having an installation here, or I want to commemorate this person or that. That's awesome. I have no reservations about taking a job, but they've got to find me.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the point. They really have to be able to find you. Out of all those artists, why should they choose you?
Right, and then you need to stick out because if you don't market yourself, you're just kind of almost dead in the water.
True.